Now, Utah Summer Games started back in 1986. Is that right?
1986, yeah.
Okay, so let's take a step back. I know you weren't here back in 1986.
I was not, no.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the background that you know of and some of the key players or things that helped the Utah Summer Games get where it is today. At least let's just dive into how it got started.
Yeah. So the Utah Summer Games, and I've said this before, but I think it's the best analogy to talk about it. It's really a love story, in my opinion, between people in this part of the state, the sports community in general, and the people of the state of Utah. And really where that love story started was actually not even in Utah, but it actually was in Los Angeles in 1984 with the 1984 Summer Olympics. So I think what's important for sports fans to realize is the Olympic spectacle that we see now, that just concluded a little bit ago in Paris.
And now we're in the Paralympics right now.
Yeah, in the Paralympics, really was almost dead prior to Los Angeles winning the bid for the 1984 Summer Olympics. They put on what will probably go down when history's finished being written as one of the great sports events in the history of the world.
And now it's coming back.
Back in 2028.
Yeah, that's great.
But that 1984 Summer Olympics, so much spawned out of that at an international level, at a national level, and at a local level. So two of the folks who were instrumental in the foundation of the games, Dr. Jerry Sherritt, who was at SUU, and then Rich Wilson, prominent local business person, they were involved in the 84 Summer Olympics. Dr. Sherritt went and attended. Rich worked in some capacities at the Summer Olympics in 1984, and they both left with this idea of what if we created a similar Olympic-style competition in Cedar City, Utah, that was the official Summer Games for the state of Utah. It started in 1986 with a smaller competition, kept growing. And
do you know what some of those first events were?
Some of the first events I know were archery's been a part of it since the beginning, track and field. Those were some of the early ones. Wrestling, I know, was big. Boxing was really big early in the time. We don't have that anymore. But some of those sports, and then just kept growing in terms of the additions of sports over the years. And by the early 1990s, I mean, Rich, in his leadership and tenure as the executive director, had grown it truly to be the premier amateur sports festival in the state of Utah. And I think the business conditions then were really unique and ripe for this to start, because there wasn't club sports. There wasn't parents and families being on the road 3 out of every 3 weekends a month, going to different cities to go compete in travel ball tournaments. There was your high school season. There was maybe if you had local rec sports or, a faith-based
that's how I remember
or whatever.
Up. Yeah.
And then there was the Utah Summer Games. That's
Yeah.
what you did if you were playing sports in the state of Utah. And I think there's so many tremendous things that period in history allowed the Utah Summer Games to be able to do and to get started, and created roots that now are preparing us for our 40th consecutive rendition of the Utah Summer Games
This next
summer
year will
in
be
2025. 40th?
Wow, that's
the 40th
awesome.
rendition of the games.